I'd like to call this call meeting of the Board of Education to order. We're about 3 minutes early, so we should get time off for good behavior. The first item on the agenda is the approval of agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And before we continue, I would like to alert the board that yesterday was Wendy Carlisle's birthday. We need to sing to her.
Ooh, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
And of course, her husband Brian had surgery yesterday, and we certainly hope he's doing well.
Thank
Please
you.
convey our best wishes.
Thank you.
The next item is the under non-action items, and it's entitled the Excellence Public School Act, Senate Bill 402, and I think that's the 25% rule. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Is there some way for us to get this to show up there? And I know you all have a copy of this at your table.
And while she's getting ready, it's always a pleasure to welcome Will Dorn from Sanford Herald. Glad you're here, Will.
All right. As Dr. Smith indicated there, this is Senate Bill 402, and this otherwise known as the Excellent Public Schools Act. And I know back in November, you had a little bit of information at the board meeting at that time, and today we just want to talk about the process a little bit. If you look at, let me postpone the start up there. If you'll look at that first slide there, pretty much what we're going to talk about tonight is what needs to happen during the 2014-15 school year. And as you know, that any teacher that's worked at this point 4 consecutive years will not be eligible for tenure, because that has now gone away as far as handing it out. Those that have tenure will keep it until 2018 unless they accept the Excellent Public Schools Act offer of a contract as part of that top 25%. So 25% of the teachers this year and licensed support staff, and remember the definition of licensed support staff, that was your guidance, your speech, your psychologist, your media, those categories. Those are licensed support staff with 3 consecutive years of service in Lee County schools will be offered a 4-year contract in 2014. So at the end of the school year this year, instead of giving out tenure, you all will be handing out contracts for that 25% category. This includes an annual increase of $500 for each recipient. So those teachers that accept that 4-year contract, they will actually receive an increase of $500. Senate Bill 402, the 4-year contract would be in lieu of tenure. So those that have tenure and accept it, they're exchanging it. That's what they're doing. They're exchanging their tenure right now with a 4-year contract and $500. Any questions about that? And some of this is mainly a review for you all. The contract options this year for 14-15 is that 4-year contract as mentioned, or continue their current career status, or a 1-year contract. Those are the only options that any county has in the state for 2014-15. Current career status teachers that do not receive that 4-year contract, keep in mind they will keep their tenure until 2018-19. So if they are not part of the 25%, or they decide not to accept it and they decline the contract, then they will keep the tenure until 2018-19, along with all their rights associated with the tenure status. Okay? 4-year contract, just talking a little bit more about that. The $500 is added to the teacher's base salary every year. The $500 is in addition to any increase awarded to all teachers. So, for example, if we all get 2% this year, that $500 is in addition to that. And the one thing about that is the legislation does not specify if the increase would continue into the next contract year. So we don't know that. That's one of those things that's not written down anywhere as a promise. Now we talk about who is eligible, and that's really what we wanted to bring to you all tonight, in addition to just a review. 25% to receive the 4-year contracts. Again, classroom teachers, instructional support staff, they have to be full-time employees. They have to have the 3 consecutive years, and we're looking a look back here of 10, 11, 11, 12, and 12, 13. Performance and evaluation. Now, this is all part of legislation. Teachers must show proficient, which is equivalent to at standard or above, performance on all standards, at least in the 12-13 summative evaluation. Now, what's going to be the impact at the school level? Each school will receive a prorated percentage of 4-year contracts based on eligible staff. So, for example, right now we have about 370 eligible teachers that meet the legislative definition of a classroom teacher. We have about 54 in the other category I mentioned as instructional support. Of those 370, 25% would be somewhere around 92.5 contracts. And of those 54, I can't remember, 13 contracts maybe, and don't make me do the math in my head right now, but thereabouts. And what that would equate to by giving it out to each school and just saying we're going to take 25% of the teachers at Lee County High School, for example, approximately that would be 16.5 contracts that would be awarded, and I'm just using as an example since I'm standing at Lee County High School, but we would round down that half because you can't give out a half of a contract, and we would do that with all the schools, and so that we would have the whole contracts to be able to offer out to that other category. Elementary schools, I think we're averaging about 5 contracts per school based on their numbers, somewhere about that number. Staff will verify their eligibility with a contract consideration form, and you have a copy of that there with your PowerPoint presentation. And pretty much what that is just to make sure we haven't missed anybody. We've pulled all the data. We have identified all the eligible people, but we want another set of eyes. It's like tenure. Every year when we do tenure, we send a list of all the folks we think are eligible for tenure, and we send it for principals to look through the list and say, have we missed anybody? Is there anyone else you've got a question about? By having all of the staff, whether they're eligible or not, fill out that consideration form and say, I am eligible, and I meet the requirements from a performance standpoint and evaluation standpoint, then that gives us an opportunity to put eyes on it again, because maybe Miss Carlisle, maybe we didn't have her on the list, and she checks that, and we get that form back in, and we go, okay, well, let's, why is she not on that list? Let's go pull her file again. And it could be that, she was in Lake County for 2 years and Lee County for 1, and she misunderstood the fact that she had to have 3 consecutive years. So sometimes that's a question, but it gives us an opportunity to look one more time and make sure we do not miss anybody. All right, questions about that? The other piece that's important about that contract consideration form is we have the principal review it. The teacher signs off on the bottom of it, and the principal signs off. And the reason we're asking the principal to do that is because maybe there's some kind of documented performance issue at the school level this year that we've not been made aware of yet. And we would want to make sure that we're aware of that before that would be awarded because of what's written into legislation. All other teachers at the end of the school year will receive a 1-year contract, as stated earlier, or retain their tenure career status until 2018. Fast facts kind of sheet, and you have that as well, and kind of work through that in a minute, but 25% of the eligible teachers will be taken to the board for approval in the spring, and that will be something that Dr. Bryan will talk with about later as to whether that's going to be May or June. Just keeping in mind that the deadline for them to make their decisions is June 30th. Tenured teachers who receive the offer relinquish rights to tenure and receive incremental annual increase of $5 over 4-year period. And I want to qualify that and say those tenured teachers who accept that offer. I think I got happy with the receive there, but they have to accept it. No, I'm thinking about denying it. But who receive the offer, they relinquish their rights to tenure, and they would get the incremental annual increase if they accept it. Tenured teachers who decline the 4-year contract retain their tenure until 2018, and as I stated earlier, and all rights associated with that. And then all other teachers receive that 1-year contract.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Do they have to be qualified one time, or we have to do it the 25% every year?
No, sir. This is a one-time thing unless the legislators come back this next time and implement it again. Right now, with the Excellent Public Schools Act, the only time you do the 25% is this year, 2014-15. Subsequent years, they will have, after 2018, then they will be eligible for a 1, a 2, or a 4-year contract, and tenures completely eliminated. But as of right now, the answer is no. 25% is this year only, thank goodness. Okay? Good question, though. Tentative timeline there, and you can see September through December, identify the pool, we've already done that. Review personnel files and evaluation data, we've done that. March through April, superintendent and principals review the eligibility list of employees. We will be sending out the eligibility list by school to the principals so they can look at that along with the form that they're going to get. In May, May through June there, the superintendent can bring to the Board of Education, or will bring the list for the board to approve. And then May, June, the teacher must accept or decline by June 30th. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the proposed method. We talked about that last time, and I put it back in there for you. But determine the number of eligible teachers, rank them based on the past 2 years' worth of performance and evaluations. Superintendent would remove from the list or designee. Removes from the list documented performance concerns. So if there is, if you have those resignations, retirements removed from the list, you don't want to offer a contract if they're going to retire or resign. And then principals review the eligibility list, and then they go to the board in closed session, but you take action in open session. Performance, they cannot have any documented performance concerns. Effective, as demonstrated by proficiency on the teacher evaluation instrument standards 1 through 5, not on standard 6. Rubric to score past 2 years of evaluation data, and we've been doing that, and that's been based on several different attorneys' recommendation. And doing it this way, that eliminates this whole arbitrary and capricious and discriminatory. It's all about the math and how you performed. Actions, identify and approve and extend the offer. The pool, again, must accept 1-year contracts to teachers not in the 25%. And this year, the superintendent must notify teachers that they're not going to be renewed by May 15th. Okay? That's this year. Afterwards, it'll go to, and we'll talk about that here, it'll go to June the 1st, I believe it is. Non-tenured teachers and teachers without 4-year contract only offered 1-year contracts. Yeah, it's June 1st. That was my next one. Superintendent notification to non-renew after this year by June 1. And then board decision not to renew by June 15th. And that's the same process we've always used, just the dates have changed. And then non-tenured teachers will have no right to a hearing officer, even in any year that they're in, okay? I want to go back here. This timeline right here is a wonderful timeline for kind of summing it up. You can see it just lets you at a glance look and see that what happens between 14-15 and 17-18 to those with 4-year contracts. It lets you know those that have continued career status, and those are the ones that do not receive the 4-year contracts but are career right now. And then all the other categories will have 1-year contracts issued every year until 2017-18. So think about that too from an HR perspective. In counties much larger than us, that's a bear. Then actions, July 1, 2018, less than 3 consecutive years in LEA. Now remember that we're moved to 2018. Now they'll get a 1-year contract every year instead of it used to be 1 of 4. 2 of 4, 3 of 4, 4 of 4. Be 1 year, 1 year, 1 year. Non-tenured with minimum of 3 consecutive years will get 1, 2, or 4-year contract. 2 or 4-year contracts will be offered to effective teachers as defined by proficiency on evaluation instrument. And that's where the dilemma will come in again. Is what criteria will be used to identify who's going to get a 2-year and who's going to get a 4-year. They've made it very clear about the 1 year, but they've not made it clear about the other. Good news, I always want to leave that. Loss of tenure does not negate due process rights. Teachers still have those due process rights and can only be dismissed, by statute during the term of their contract for one of those 15 grounds. And Lee County employs staff of wonderful teachers. So, it is a dilemma when you're having to choose 25%, and that's why we want to do it in the least, compromising way. And then I thought this picture was really, the days are gone when teachers are grabbing us HR folks by the ankles and saying, hire me, hire me. They're actually, and I could have put a few others on there, but they're actually running off and doing other things now. We've talked about it with you all. We've had teachers leave us to become personal trainers because they can make more money. We've had teachers leave us to manage hotels. We've just had a teacher resign that will be leaving in March, and I believe that individual is going to become a landscaper. And, not all of those are just honorable professions, but something's happened with education in North Carolina when we have, just so many of our quality teachers leaving for other professions.
I want to thank you for explaining this to us. I know that you've worked really hard on this for many, many months, and I appreciate you putting it into terms, as simple as terms you can, because I'm very disappointed about this law, that the legislation, this legislation and law, because it's so convoluted, it's so hard to understand, and I resent them putting us in a position as a Board of Education where we have to, choose these 25% teachers. Because all of our teachers do a great job, like you said, and I resent being put in this position where we have to make this choice, because I feel like we're, it's pitting teachers against each other, and that's not good for the teachers. This law is clearly not good for the teachers at all, and it really is detrimental for them, and I just don't agree with it. I don't like it whatsoever, and I'm very disappointed that the General Assembly passed this and that they're putting us in a position that we have to make these choices. I'm not comfortable with it at all, and I'm very upset about it. But I do appreciate all the hard work that you have done to try to explain this and get through all of it, to explain it to us and to everyone in the public, to let them know what's going on, because it is very hard to understand. It's very, like I said, convoluted. It's not easy. And I think that with everything that has happened in this past year with education, I can understand why teachers are going into other professions, and that's so upsetting to me, because we want to keep our good teachers in the classroom. They're there because they love the children, they're there because they love teaching, and we need to support them. And this is not supporting our teachers. We're sending a bad message to our teachers throughout the state with this legislation, and I'm very upset about it. We're on the wrong path with education in this state, and we really need to get back on track. Education, it should be a top priority in our state. It's part of our economic development for North Carolina, and we need to treat our teachers like the professionals that they are, and they're not being treated with respect, and they're not being treated like professionals, and it's very, very upsetting. We need to make some changes. Sorry, it's my 2 cents.
Any other questions?
Mrs. Jones, as you went through the evaluation, obviously there's a possibility that more than 25% of our teachers met the criteria. What did you use to narrow? How do you narrow it to the?
You just take 25% of the total number eligible, period. That's the only, you take 25% of the total number eligible teachers who have met all the criteria. And then what you find out from doing that, and especially when you prorate it out by school, you will have very few that will require a tiebreaker. And when it requires a tiebreaker, and that's something Dr. Bryan and I talked about today, then we'll have to dig a little bit deeper. Let's say there's a tie between, I'll use another example, Wendy, between you and Mark Akanosho. If there's a tie at the school level between, those top 25% at the school, then we would look a little bit deeper at the elements, the individual elements on the summative evaluation. Yes, sir.
So you go back to the score.
Go back to it again. Go back to it again.
Of course, I'd win because I'm older than him.
Okay.
I agree.
That would not factor in, Dr. Smith, sorry.
But we try to keep it very
age didn't have
mathematical.
That would not factor
And
in.
at that time, would you go back and talk with the principal? Principal would be brought in at the same time?
Are you
Well, if we keep it just strictly by the math, to keep it from being anything of just looking down at the elements again, digging into the evaluation, then we could go back to the principal and just say, if we're doing straight by the math on this now, You know, Mark, when I look at the elements, he by far, he by far surpassed
Now you hurt my feelings.
Lynn over here, on those individual elements. And that's just the least arbitrary way to do that. I mean, you can do just about, I've heard tremendous amounts or different ways of doing this across the state. And I can tell you, and Dr. Bryan and I have talked about this, a lot of them concern me about the way they're doing it because it could lend itself to being, I think, a little bit more arbitrary than just doing it strictly by the math. You know, the good thing about, I think, our teachers, I believe they understand that we're just going to implement the law if that's the way the board chooses to just, we're going to implement the law. We're just going to follow what the statute says. And when we're saying 25%, that does not mean it's the top 25%. It means we're taking 25% of our teachers, and all of you are wonderful, and all of you are top educators in Lee County, but the law says we can only do 25%, and we're doing that from a mathematical standpoint of just using your summative evaluations and your performance.
And the total package for giving up their tenure becomes $2,000.
Yes.
Well, that depends on how you look at that math.
Taxes.
Cumulative, it is 5,000 cumulative is what it, but then if you look at it like I do from a mathematical perspective and you're going, it's 500 every year, it really only amounts to $2,000. You can tell me it's cumulative all day long and it's 5,000, but when I do the math and I add 500 to 30,800, what am I getting there? 31,000. I can't even remember what the math's going to be there. And I add another 500 to that, then I'm getting, but they're taking and adding it up cumulative to say that it's 5,000. And I say they, it just depends on who you talk to.
But it's going to be 5,000.
I have another question. With the short session coming up on May 14th, I've heard in the past, a couple good months ago, that they might tweak this in a short session. Have you heard anything recent about that?
Lots of rumors floating around the state about that. Really, I'm hearing more that they're going to do something about the master's pay.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we've all heard that about giving a raise to our teachers who are at the first year entry level.
I suspect since it's an election year, you hear a lot of tweaking going on.
Yes, absolutely.
I agree with that. I just was wondering because, we're already been working on this. I'm just curious, as to what you heard and, what any out, because this is just, to me, this is just a bad law. I mean, it's just not even well thought out. There's no common sense or logic behind it. And I hope that they do something. I'd like to see them just totally get rid of it. But if they're going to keep it, at least tweak it and improve it somewhat, because this is awful. I don't like this at all.
And I don't know what Dr. Bryan's hearing, but I'm hearing that some counties are waiting with the hopes that it will just go away. But unfortunately, if you wait and do all of what we've done and try to do that all in May and June,
It's too
somebody's
much.
going to be missed. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just too much. We have spent a tremendous amount of time on our county just pulling the data together.
And you made a good point. I mean, because we've been working on this for months already. Because you talked to us about this months ago, and I know you've been working on it. So I think you're right to go ahead and go through, go forward the process. Because who knows what's going to happen in a short session? They might not even touch it. So you got to go through the process. And I feel sorry for those bigger counties that have those huge school systems with all that personnel. That's going to be.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not going to be fun for them.
I was just thinking of the destruction that will be to the instructional time while you're doing all of this, because we're not putting that into consideration, but somebody who knew that they put someone over him and all of that, what effect would that have, the instructional time, while you're pulling them out and principal talking to them about
It would be done after.
No, they're not going to do that. The form that you saw there, the eligibility determination form,
Yes.
and if I misunderstand the question, Mark, you help me with it, but if you see that form there, it's really, an information session will be held with all the teachers at one time, like in a faculty meeting, to just share the process. And then the principals will just give out the form to let them just if they think they're eligible or not, you know, just to make sure that we double check ourselves. And then the fast fact sheet, the quick reference guide
Yes,
there,
I saw it.
that is something else that the principal will be able to use with them. They will not pull them out one-on-one. If a teacher has a question after they look at that and they're not sure, then they can go in and, you know, and talk with the principal individually or call HR and get some additional information. There'll be lots of information out there for them, but it will not involve interrupting instructional time. We will protect that.
Well, that's my concern.
But I just, and maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but on that fast fact sheet and the proposed timeline, are those dates correct?
Which one are you looking at? Did I put 13 instead of
Yeah,
14? All the
yeah.
way down, didn't I?
Yeah, starting with February, it should be 14.
It should. This is what happens when you do this at midnight. And that was midnight last night, and my time zone was probably
I guess that
2013.
makes you ineligible for being one of the 25%.
Yes. This is in rough draft format. I will fix the date. Thank you, John. I will fix, Will, the dates are wrong. I'll send you a clean copy.
Yeah.
Any other questions about that? All right, thank you very much.
Chairman Smith, if I may,
Please.
I'd just like to thank Ms. Jones for all of her hard work on this. As you all noted, this has taken a tremendous amount of time, and she has been the person to put this together, not only for Lee County, but with her position with the state, with Pank as president. I know she gets a lot of phone calls from a lot of HR folks across the state. So the other thing I'd like to say is I'd just like to thank Ms. Jones for everything she's done for Lee County.
Absolutely.
Not trying to make anybody upset
Don't make her
tonight,
cry.
but with her final day being at the end of the week, just want to thank her for her dedication and service to Lee County. Understand. Thank you, Dr. Smith.
Moving on to new business, Dr. Bryan, you want to present the calendar, please?
This is pretty brief. Obviously, have been seeking input from folks about makeup days, and obviously with the snow being here, and want to ensure some instructional consistency to make sure we do what we need to do to support our students. With that, we have talked to a lot of folks, teachers, administrators, heard from parents as well. And to make things, I think simplest for everybody, we're gonna add 15 minutes to the school day, to the end of the school year, and in lieu of taking spring break or Saturday days. And we believe that's just the most convenient way to support this. And you'll notice one other thing on there. Also decided that we have obviously an election coming up in May, a primary, and felt like that with the change we're making right now with adding 15 minutes to the school day, that will enable us to use that as a work day now for folks. So we can add 15 minutes to the school day, to the rest of the school year, and then put in there the work day so that on election day our students are not in the school building.
And that is Tuesday, the 6th of May, correct?
Yes, and you'll notice on your calendars, Lee Early College is in session that day. They're not a polling site, and because Lee Early College ends the year a little bit earlier in May, I talked with Mr. Beal, and they felt like that they'd like to have that sort of continuation of instruction there, and it seemed to work for everybody a little bit better.
Any discussion?
I just think this is a wise way to add, to add the 15 minutes. Just makes a lot of sense to me, because we definitely, with spring break coming up quick, everyone has plans, and people have probably spent money, already for their plans on spring break. I definitely don't want to touch that. And, I think Saturday, you're running into conflicts with families having sports and other things going on. So I think staying away from spring break and Saturdays makes sense. And I think the 15 minutes is just the best solution.
Is there a motion to approve this new calendar?
I move that the Lee County Board of Education approve the revised 2013-14 traditional tramway year-round and high school seniors calendars.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The calendar is approved. And Mr. Akinosho, if you would like to make a motion for closed session, please.
I move that the Lee County Board of Education go into closed session for the purpose of discussing information that is privileged, confidential, not a public record under NCGS section 143-318.11A and 1.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We will adjourn to closed session, please. Oh. Well, let's see, everybody's here with Mr. Love. We're back in open session. I need at this point, is there a motion to approve the contract for John Conway?
I move that the Lee County Board of Education approve the contract for John Conrad as Human Resources Assistant Superintendent.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The contract is approved.
And I'll, okay,
Oh,
that's okay, she's got it. She's got it.
is there a motion to approve the Human Resources report as presented?
I move that Lee County Board of Education approve the Human Resources report as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. The Human Resources report is approved. And is there a motion for adjournment?
I move we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned.